Welcome to this video where we will learn about the legendary Saiva saint Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar. He hailed from Ilayankudi. According to Pulavar, Pi.Raa.Nadarasan, there has been much debate over where this particular Ilayankudi is located, with claims it is part of Chola Nadu, Thondai Nadu as well as Pandya Nadu. There is a town called Ilayankudi in the Sivagangai district of Pandya Nadu. Here, for many years, the devotees continue to celebrate the great Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar's Guru Pusai annually. His Guru Pusai is celebrated on the Maham Nakshatram of the Tamil month of Avani, which is usually from mid-August to mid-September. As the great saint and one of the four Samaya Kuravars, Sundaramurthy Nayanar of the 8th century in the Common Era, who is also known as Nambiyandar, is the earliest known saint to have praised Ilayankudi Maarar in his Thiruppaattu. We can confirm that Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar has lived prior to or during Sundaramurthy Nayanar's time. Sekkizhar Swamigal has shared Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar's glorious life story with the rest of the world in 27 songs in the amazing Periya Puranam. Now let's learn a bit more about Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar's story. He always thought of and kept the dancing golden lotus feet of Lord Nadaraja of Thillai Ambalam firmly on his head. It was due to the great penance of the ancient clan of Sutrargal that he was born into their clan on this world to be a guiding light for humanity. He constantly and consistently served Sivaperuman and his dear Adiyargal. He lived in Ilayankudi. He was Maaranar. Maaranar lived a gracious and selfless life alongside his loving wife, who helped willingly in all his endeavours. The couple, who were great devotees of the Lord, were also great devotees of the devotees of the Lord. Such was their respect for Sivanadiyargal, devotees of Lord Shiva, that they treated them the same way they would treat the all-loving Siva Peruman himself. As a couple, they would perform this blessed form of worship tirelessly and with genuine enthusiasm every time. Whenever Sivanadiyargal visited Ilayankudi Maarar, or if they were nearby, regardless of whom they were, Maaranar would humbly approach them, speaking kind words, graciously welcome them into his house, and he would have them seated comfortably. He would then lovingly wash their feet, thinking of them as Sivan himself. Together with his wife, they would prepare, cook and serve nourishing and delicious meals, complete with all 6 distinct tastes. Aru Suvai. These meals would be cooked according to the devotees' needs, to please them just as they would want to please the Almighty Lord himself. They would give grains and food to all Sivanadiyargal who would visit them. They welcomed all guests with utmost respect and kindness. Maaranar was blessed with great wealth. but he acknowledged that all the wealth in fact belonged to Sivaperuman, and as such he would only use it to benefit Sivan Adiyargal. The all-loving Lord wanted to share the greatness of Maaranar with the rest of the world. Sivan wanted to show everyone that Maaranar's great devotion and selfless deeds were not affected by his wealth at all. To prove this, the Lord made Maaranar's wealth gradually decrease over a daily basis. This continued up to a point when they were living in abject poverty. And even when Maaranar possessed very little, his devotion and his service towards the Lord's devotees remained immaculate and stronger than ever. Somehow, through selling his decreasing property, exchanging remaining goods, and mortgaging whatever remained during times of unimaginable financial difficulty, Ilayankudi Maarar and his wife were able to wholeheartedly continue worshipping Sivanadiyargal and continued to serve delicious food cooked with pure devotion to Sivanadiyargal on a regular basis, with a heart filled with gratitude and devotion. It was during these days of Maaranar's flawless service towards Sivanadiyargal, even when in poverty, that the glorious Almighty Sivaperuman stepped down onto earth to bless his dear and loving devotees. Sivanaar took the form of a great tapasvi. It was a dark and stormy night. Such was their poverty that Maaranar and his wife remained behind latched doors that night in soaring hunger, with no food available to eat for themselves. It was on such a day that Sivan, in the form of a great devotee, came to Ilayankudi, to Maaranar's house. Even in such circumstances, the sight of an individual who appeared as a Sivan Adiyar made Maaranar joyous. He welcomed this devotee guest into his home. Concerned about this Adiyar's plight, as he had apparently come through treacherous rainy conditions, and with no place to eat or stay in the middle of the night, Maaranar lovingly helped this Adiyar dry himself as he was soaked in the heavy rain. This Sivanadiyar, who, unknown to the loving Maaranar, was the all-loving Lord of all Lords himself. Maaranar kindly offered this devotee a seat to rest. He then felt a selfless, unquenchable need to feed this devotee. This gracious deed was a completely normal thing for Maaranar to do. However, this time was completely different. Maaranar and his wife had no food with them. They themselves were starving for a long time without food, and they had no valuable possessions left to sell or exchange for food. Maaranar acknowledged their current challenging circumstances and went to speak with his wife to figure a solution. He asked her, "This devotee is very hungry. What shall we do? Even though we have no food for ourselves, we must fittingly feed this devotee of the Lord. How shall we achieve this?" His loving wife responded, "I see no other way. it's late in the night and we can't go anywhere." She then remembered and said, "If you can gather the paddy seeds you had sown in the morning, it will be possible for me to provide food for our guest. I can't see any other way." When Maarar heard his selfless wife say this idea, he felt delighted and felt as if all his wealth had returned almost instantly. He immediately prepared to visit the fields. Such was the pure devotion and selflessness of Maarar and his wife. Despite having not eaten themselves for a long time, and despite only saving enough to have sown some seeds of paddy into the fields earlier in the morning of that very same day, these great devotees were more than happy to use all those paddy seeds to provide a meal for the guest devotee whom they had just met, whilst remaining hungry themselves. Outside, the heavy rain had become violent and fierce. It appeared as if the external surroundings were being dissolved by the seemingly endless, dark, torrential rain. Any man would have shuddered even at the thought of venturing out into such conditions. However, our Maarar, who was enthused by his abundant love for the Lord and his devotees, joyously and swiftly ventured outside with a big basket inverted above his head. It was midnight. Darkness engulfed all the surroundings. It was stormy and rainy, and there was no way of seeing any pathway to walk on. Despite these intimidating obstacles, Ilayankudi Maarar was enthused by his abundant love to serve Sivan's dear devotees. Maarar used his mental map of his surroundings, and remembering the usual route he would take to the fields, he walked into the darkness. He walked towards the fields, where birds were in deep slumber. As he felt he had come near to the field where he had dispersed the seeds earlier, he started to try and locate the germinating seeds, using his feet to try and feel them in the muddy conditions. And when he correctly guessed that he was close, he used his hands to gather these seeds, which were by now floating on one side of the water gathered at this particular location. Maarar efficiently scooped all the seeds into the basket and hastily made his way back towards his home, eager to serve the Sivanadiyar. When he reached his house, his great wife eagerly anticipated his arrival and graciously received the gathered muddy seeds. With pure love and devotion, she washed away all the dirt from these seeds. She then shared with her husband, "We currently don't have any fuel to cook this meal." In response, to solve this issue, Maarar, without hesitation, took down some of the wooden rafters from their home's own roof. With the newly gathered firewood, Maarar's great wife ignited the fuel and roasted the germinating seeds into rice grains. She then diligently removed the outer cover of the grains and cooked the rice. The incomparable lady then asked her husband, "What shall we do for curry to go along with the rice to give to our great devotee guest. When thinking about how to solve this issue, Ilayankudi Maarar thought about the Sivanadiyar who had arrived at their house. Maaranar felt that this Adiyar will most certainly be exhausted and very hungry, especially after experiencing such an arduous journey to get to their house. With his great devotion and love towards the Lord's loving devotees powering his selfless actions, Maaranar quickly ventured into their backyard, where they had recently planted some greens. In the darkness, Maaranar, using his hands, felt the ground to locate these plants, and when he found the pit where the small plants were growing, he plucked them out by their roots. Sekkizhar Swamigal vividly describes these moments in his Periya Puranam by saying it looked just like Maaranar had not only plucked out the plants, but through his actions, with Sivanar's grace, he had also plucked out Pasam. Pasam, ignorance, is one of the three eternal truths, Mutporul Unmai, alongside Pathi, God, and Pasu, soul. And as souls become intertwined with Pasam while on this earth, they struggle to separate from it lifetime after lifetime, resulting in birth after birth in different forms. Pasu needs to separate from Pasam to reach God, who is known as Pathi in Saiva Siddhantam. Sekkizhar Swamigal shares that through his selfless actions filled with love for Sivan, it seemed as if Ilayankudi Maarar had plucked out Pasam. Let's take this opportunity to explore a Thirumanthiram composition by Moolar, sharing this message about the three eternal truths, and also this particular Periya Puranam by Sekkizhar Swamigal.
Pathi Pasu Paasam எனப்பகர் மூன்றில் பதியினை போல் பசு பாசம் அநாதி பதியினை சென்று அணுக பசு பாசம் பதியணுகே பசு பாசம் நில்லாவே வழிவரும் இளைப்பினோடும் வருத்திய பசியினாலே அழிவுறும் ஐயன் என்னும் அன்பினில் பொழிந்து சென்று குழி நிரம்பாத புன்சை குறும்பயிர் தடவி பாச பழிமுதல் பறிப்பார் போல பறித்தவை கரிக்கு நல்க.
Maaranar's great wife received these fresh greens from her husband washed them with great efficiency and accuracy, placed them in spotlessly clean vessels, and cooked and prepared many exquisite dishes of curry, all the while consoling herself by reminiscing how she was able to cook many great dishes with the Lord's grace back in the days when they had more resources. Soon she finished cooking and showed Maarar the great dishes which were ready to be served, and shared, "Let us serve the great devotee with food." Maarar approached the resting devotee and gently woke him up. Maarar then requested the Sivanadiyar, "O Great One, you have blessed us and rescued us even when we are sunk in such challenging times. Please do come and have your meal." Just as Ilayankudi Maarar said these words, the Sivanadiyar who was in front of him rose up and then transformed into a blazing pure flame. Ilayankudi Maarar and his wife froze in wonder, overwhelmed with awe. Before these great devotees, the all-loving Sivanaar himself then joyfully manifested alongside the Divine Mother of all, Iyalaa, on top of his celestial vehicle, the bull. The Lord then lovingly spoke to his dear devotees, "Oh, my dear servitor, you have selflessly served and worshipped Sivanadiyar throughout your whole life. May you and your great wife eternally abide in our eternal abode, and may you continue your great service towards Adiyarhan, with Kubera himself at your service to continue these great deeds with all his wealth. May you both be eternally immersed in bliss." And thus the incomparable, almighty, all-loving Sivaveruman fittingly blessed his great devotees before disappearing. Now we have learnt about the great selfless life led by Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar. Let us take this opportunity to explore some of the compositions sharing Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar's glories, composed by many great saints who have lived since his time.
தில்லை வாழ்ந்தனர் தம்மடியார்க்கும் அடியேன் திருநீல கண்டத்து குயவனார் கடியேன் இல்லையே என்னாத இயற்பைக்கும் அடியேன் இளையாந்தன் குடிமாறன் அடியார்க்கும் அடியேன் வெல்லுமா மிக வல்லமை பொருளுக்கடியேன் விரிபொழில் சுகுன்றையான் விரண்மிண்டர் கடியேன் அல்லிமன் முள்ளையந்தாரமர் நீதி கடியேன் ஆரூரன் ஆரூரில் அம்மான காலே இயலா விடைச் சென்ற மாதவர்க்கு இன்னமுதா விதைத்த வயலார் முளை வித்து வாரி மனையலக்கால் வறுத்து செயலார் பயில் விழுத்தி கரியாக்கும் அவன் செழுநீர் கயலார் இளையான் குடியுடை மாறன்னங் கற்பகமே அன்பனே அன்பர் பூசை அளித்த நீ அடங்கினோடும் என் பெரும் உலகை எய்தி இருநிதி கிழவன் தானே முன்பெரு நிதியம் ஏந்தி மொழிவழி ஏவல் கற்ப இன்பமார்ந்து இருக்க அன்றே அருள் செய்தான் எவர்க்கும் மிக்கா.
Oh, hail the legendary Ilayankudi Maarar Nayanar.